What's up, everybody? Laura Sanko here, and I am joined by my podcast partner, Anthony Smith. Anthony, I wanted to talk to you today because obviously yesterday you had a very long and very deep and difficult, I think that's the word, is difficult conversation with Diego Sanchez, getting his sort of like unedited, free thinking response to him being let go of the UFC. And now there are conversations that are happening about that video, as well as the other videos that have been released surrounding this whole topic. So I guess I just wanted to touch base with you and get your thoughts on that conversation, because it was really it was like 45 minutes of Diego expressing himself, which I feel like was super important for him to do. But I'm anxious to hear what you thought of what he said, and I don't know where we go from here, I guess.
I think that's the best question is where do we go from here? I'm glad that we gave Diego that platform, and I've seen some of the comments, they've been sent to me that people wish that we wouldn't have cut him off. That show was never meant for YouTube. That was never the plan. Had I known that's the direction it was going to go, I absolutely would have tried to get him on here with me and you, and we could have just let him go as long as he wanted to go. But it was on my radio show on SiriusXM. There's a hard out. We skipped every single commercial break to give him as much time as possible. We had Rumble on just before that, and he got 15 minutes, and we had to keep on moving. That's just how radio works. It's very different. So I was disappointed we weren't able to give him more time. And it was the hardest interview that I've ever been a part of for several reasons. The content of it, first and foremost, it was just a really sad conversation, and it was sad to see. I don't know where Diego is right now compared to the Diego that I met 10 years ago. So that part of it was sad. There was a lot of questions that I had, like previous to the interview starting. That's not the direction that I wanted to go. All of that stuff, I reached out to Joshua himself, and I was going to have that conversation with him and separate them, like I kind of alluded to with Diego. I wanted to separate those two guys and have totally separate conversations that had nothing to do with the other one. And Joshua wasn't willing to come on. So I got Diego. I wanted to talk a lot about reflection in his career and what was your favorite moment in your UFC.
Yeah, make it more of like a celebration about him
What,
and all that he's
given.
The
most?
Yeah.
What did you enjoy the most? What did it feel like to get inducted into the Hall of Fame? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
But we let him guide the conversation, and that's where it went. So, and sad because it just didn't. It's not going to look good for him. But I promised him I would put it out like that. So me and you had this conversation. What do I do? Personally, I wanted to kill it, and it went out live and just leave it dead like it was, and never hear it again.
Yeah.
But he wanted it out there, so I kept my promise and we put it out.
It's when you kind of gave me the heads up, like, hey, we just had a really long conversation with Diego, and it was difficult, and he said some really startling things, I guess is maybe a word for it. I wasn't, I'll be honest, I wasn't entirely prepared for everything, and I mean that actually in a number of ways. Parts of it, I was like, I'm on the same page. Like, I get where you're coming from with this. I appreciate perspective. I feel you on that. Some of the things where, man, and I thought it was so good, that you were the one asking this question when he was talking about his frustration with the commentators, for instance. I think any fighter that has fought, and you understand kind of both sides of it because you also do the talking as well, they're just tough positions to be in. So I appreciated, his thoughts on why that went down the way it did, and your perspective on maybe how it could have been handled better behind closed doors. But him explaining why they were filming it, and they kind of got the result that they wanted. So there were things in the overall arching interview that I was like, okay, I'm glad this makes a little bit more sense to me now. I'm glad to hear that from Diego. And then there were other parts of it where it was heartbreaking. It was
shocking,
concerning. And I don't want to sit here and be overly dramatic about any of it, because in some ways, like for his sake and for whoever's sake, part of me is like, I just want this to die and go away. But on the other hand, it's important to talk about these things as well, because it's like a conversation about mental health. It's a conversation about who you allow into your inner circle and how much influence they have over your career. It's about life after the UFC, after that's all you know and that's all who you are. So it's an important conversation to have, but it was all over the place. And it's hard for me even now, like trying to talk through it with you, that there was no sequence to it. So it's like, I don't even know where to start dissecting it either.
I mean, you should have tried to guide it. I mean, it was,
Yeah, I was
I was
watching.
looking for a spot, not because I wanted to cut him off. I wanted to
Sure.
keep him on track because he was bouncing and he was kind of all over the place. So like he would start a point or start like he at least start to make a point, and then he would veer off and take a left turn. And I wanted to drag him back to that point because I felt like that was something that was really important to him. So I wanted him to finish that point instead of
Yeah.
starting the next one. And there was just nowhere to jump in. RJ tried, I tried, and I only tried a couple times. I didn't want to keep interrupting him and keep jumping in. Once I realized he wasn't going to let me in, I started to get in and he got louder. So I just backed out and just let him do his thing because I felt like he needed it. Like he hadn't been given the opportunity to just ramble or just go.
Yeah.
Just go. So I
Yeah.
just let him go. And there was a couple things that I really wanted to point out. One was the commentary thing, because I think that's across the board. And I think sometimes Diego maybe is in a box and he's very isolated right now. So maybe he doesn't know that we all deal with that. And I wanted him to know I had the same problem.
Yeah.
Me and DC are still cool. Me and Bisbing are cool. Me and Felder are cool. Anik, like we're all good. I just handled it differently and said, hey, like, listen, guys, like I'm kind of upset. Here's how I feel. And then we talked about it and everyone was super receptive. And it was just the way that Joshua went about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the issue. And then the second part was the next real shocking thing to me. I mean, if we're taking out the fearing for his life part, we're taking out the Instagram stuff, the bots, and like take that stuff out of it. I think the one thing that stood out to me is when I tried to thread that needle and say, do you understand that people love you and don't love Joshua? Like, can you accept that? And Diego can't see them.
He can't separate the two.
He can't see them as two entities, like two separate entities working together in a common goal, because that's how kind of coach and athlete are. You can look all the way down the line. Me and Mark, DC and Hav, Khabib and Hav, John Jones and Winklejohn. Like, there's these duos of coach and athlete that are just super tight, but they're very separate people and they're very different, but they're all working towards the same goal and they're all very, very close father-ish like figures, right? Diego can't look at it like that. They're one. And he can't separate them from each other. Like, and that just blew me away.
Yeah. And on some level, I guess I sort of like respect it, because I think he feels like he's sticking up for his guy, and we can all identify with, wanting to stick up for people who are close to us, or teammates or coaches or whoever. And one of the things that actually made me understand him a little bit more, if he's telling the truth, which he has no reason not to, if Josh Fabio really did walk in there and tap him out in what do you say, like 30 seconds or a minute or something, like something wild, and he weighs 110 pounds or whatever we think he weighs, if that really did happen, and Diego doesn't have a huge reason to lie about that, like I can understand why he would be like, wow, this guy's really got something going on. And listen, we've seen weird training techniques from any number of people. Okay. Like, I feel like we need to, it's like, it's like when the phrase kink shaming, like we should just no training shaming. All right. Like don't shame my kink. Don't shame my training, because he's right. I had literally forgotten that the first performance he had with Josh was the Chiesa performance, which was awesome, if I remember correctly. And so
it was okay. It was okay.
It was okay. I mean,
my issue is it's not really working. Like,
yes, it's
because
not
that's not who Diego is.
Yes.
Diego is not a super talented athlete. He's not some really technical striker. He's not some fantastic jujitsu guy. He's not I mean, he's a hard-nosed wrestler, but I wouldn't say he's the best wrestler around.
No,
And he never was. He's
he's tough.
persistent, and he's a junkyard dog, and he just
Yeah.
wants it. If Diego started fighting like Joshua wants him to fight now, if he would have done that at the beginning, we wouldn't even know who Diego Sanchez is. And that's where my first kind of real issue with the whole thing is. And I don't want Diego to think that I'm taking a shot at him. I just want him to step back from whatever reality he's living right now and just look from like a bird's eye view.
Mm-hmm.
That's just sports in general. We all go through our careers, and if you don't do something with it, or figure out a way to continue your life when it's over, some of that's on you. Like the NFL is not responsible for what happens to you when you're done playing football. And the UFC is not responsible for you for what happens to you when you're done fighting. We all signed up for this. This is voluntary. No one's making us do this. No one made Diego fight the way that he fights, but the way that he fought is what made him so popular. So like he couldn't fight any other way. Taking 4 to land 1 is the Diego Sanchez way of winning fights. And he couldn't have done it any other way. He didn't have the skill set. So that part is a little weird to me, how he's so mad at the UFC for what's happened to him. And it's a victim thing. You put yourself in that position, you know, and he kept pointing at me, and he said it in other interviews before, like, well, look, Anthony's on the radio and he's doing this, and I don't have that. Well, that's
you
not
made that happen.
my fault.
You made
that's
that happen.
Your fault.
Yeah.
Right. I made that happen. The UFC didn't give me shit. I put myself in a position to be able to talk about fights, and and obviously you need opportunities. People have to give you the opportunity, but you have to put the work in first. They don't just give you these straight off the bench.
And even the stuff on the desk, I don't think people understand how that works necessarily all the time. Like there are hundreds of fighters who are constantly like, put me on the desk, and you got to be the loudest and most talented and most, intriguing and most compelling person for them to even give you that audition. Then you got to blow away the audition to get put in the rotation. So you're right.
My desk spot is like holding my rankings in the division.
Oh,
There's
I know.
So many people that want my job right now. Everybody wants my job. And
I hear that.
And you got to work to keep it. And so it's not like you're just being handed something. It's not like that.
Yeah. And I think too, so one thing when he talked about, I don't know, for me, it was like one of the tougher parts of the interview. Obviously the part where he teared up was difficult to hear him talk about, because that's real shit right there. Like him, the sacrifices that he's made bodily, financially, mentally, all these things to give to the fans and to create these magical moments that we remember from him. But the part where he sort of like quit talking to you and was talking to Dana, take my call and all this stuff. One thing I feel like people didn't see was the day after Diego was released was a Friday, and it was the weigh-ins of a show that I was covering. And so it was the Prochazka versus Reyes fight. And so at the weigh-ins, I interviewed Dana, and they include that interview on the pre-show, I think, on ESPN Plus, but that's not a show that necessarily gets millions of eyeballs. But I asked him specifically about it. I said, tell me about the situation with Diego Sanchez and the events that led up to it. And I think people really need to hear from Dana's own mouth what he said there. And I don't know that we'll be able to get the clip, but to summarize what he said, he was so kind about Diego. This is his whole point is like, I have a great relationship with Diego. Diego is an amazing guy. I think the world of him, and Diego can call me anytime. He said that. He's like, Diego can pick up the phone and call me anytime. And I think what Dana, perhaps I'm reading between the lines here, perhaps I think what Dana means by that is Diego can call me. I don't want anything to do with his coach. I think, he went on to say, I think his coach is a bad guy and has not had the most positive influence on his career, and is part of the wedge that was created that resulted in why you and I are sitting here talking about it. But he was so clear that like, Diego's got my number. He can call me anytime. And I don't know if he literally has his number, but there are ways through the UFC for him to get a hold of him. So I hope that conversation happens. I just don't know if Diego's in a place to be able to have a conversation like you tried to have with him that doesn't involve, but you guys don't like Josh. You guys don't like Josh. You haven't been fair to Josh, Josh. Like, Dana wants to talk to Diego, and that's
Right.
it.
And that was killing me because I've heard it from Dana White's mouth myself. He loves Diego Sanchez.
Loves him.
He credits Diego for not building the UFC, but like helping build the sport. It
Yeah.
wasn't even about the company. He helped build the sport. Um, and that's why everyone loves him. And but Dana can't help him at all until Joshua Fabia is out of the picture.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that's a Dana thing. I mean, what's Dana going to do? Give him money so he can blow through it, and it ends up in the school of self-awareness?
Yeah.
Like he can't. There's no
Yeah.
helping him until he's away from Joshua. And honestly, I see a lot of people talking about, well, what can we do to help Diego? There's got to be something we can do. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
He's got to sit.
He's a grown man.
It's like a car accident. You got to sit and wait till it happens, and then pick up the pieces afterwards. And I and this is like, I wanted to have such like a man-to-man conversation with Diego because I was so shocked he was by himself. Like when he popped
Yeah.
up on the video, I was like, whoa, like this hasn't
Yeah.
happened in a long time. When's the last time you seen an interview with Diego by himself? It's been over a year. So
Oh yeah.
I was excited. Like, man, maybe we can just we can reflect, we can talk about his career and have some man-to-man chat at the end. And that's not how it went. But the speaking to Dana thing maybe maybe I'm being cynical. I don't know. Like we've all been there. Like we've all been there. We've all cried and bled and broken bones and surgeries and just hell. At least me, I guess I can't speak for everybody, but I've been there, so I get how
You
he
for sure
feels.
have.
I know how he feels, but I just think he's directing it at the wrong place. Like,
Yeah.
is there things maybe the UFC could do? Maybe. Like, I don't know what their business looks like as far as between the Diego and the UFC, but it just seemed like a lot of anger and regret
And
placed in wrong places.
I literally think it all has to do with he has no closure over this career, right? That's, to me, that's like the real travesty here, or the real thing that is just heartbreaking. Like, this guy gave us so much entertainment as a fan, but it's not the UFC's fault, really, that he's in this position. Because when you dissect the game playing, the legalities that were being thrown out there, they were literally left no choice but to do what they did. And it just sucks because, to me, I go back to, why did you put him in this position, Josh? Why did you create this like narrative of we're gonna try to create this idea that Diego sustained all these issues from the UFC, and we're gonna pin it on, like, it just feels so conspiratorial. If we could have just gotten Diego to fight Cowboy Cerrone, he could have had a moment in the octagon where he takes his gloves off and he puts them down, and the freaking, the crowd goes crazy. And wait, they're going to be pay-per-view, right? Was there going to be a crowd?
I don't know. Anyway, the crowd at home would go
Whatever,
crazy
at home.
right.
The crowd, the fans have their moment to like just cheer for him and that's not there. And I think that is what like is making him so angry and hurt. And
yeah, but what I
angry
don't
and
get
hurt,
is
you gotta direct it somewhere, and he's just directing
why
it the
is
wrong
that not
spot.
like how is he not like two things? How is Diego not seeing it? But I don't like, what was Joshua Fabia's plan? That's what keeps killing me. Like, so like, what is he thinking right now? Like, is this mission accomplished? Like, is this what
Oh, it
was
can't be.
supposed
This,
to
I don't think
happen?
this is
Like,
what he wanted.
and he took a 15-year career and ruined the entire thing in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like wrecked. It was like, just Diego he was loved by staff and the executives and the media, and he was a goddamn superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's the laughing stock of the sport and has been shamed out of the UFC. How did that happen? And that's why I wanted to give him the chance to just like, where is he at? Because we haven't had a chance to talk to him, and that's us. Like anytime Diego starts to talk too much, Joshua jumps right in. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we got a clear view of kind of where he is, and I just don't understand like how he doesn't see it. Like he didn't. you know, he was in a bad place when those two paths crossed. You know, he talked about it in the interview. He was in the middle of a divorce. He was, you know, having a lot of problems in life, and it was like a perfect storm for
Yeah.
that situation to kind of come up. And I guess part of me, it was like, well, at least in that moment, he found something that gave him some sort of peace or some sort of some comfort. But
Hmm.
like at this point, I don't know where it goes. I don't, and the scary part is I don't know where it ends. Like, where do they go from here?
Yeah.
Like, the UFC was probably the safest place for Diego to be if he was going to continue fighting.
And I'm almost worried about saying this because I don't want to piss anybody off. I don't want to see him go to, I don't want to see him go to another promotion. I don't want to see him bare knuckle box. I don't want to see him in Bellator. I want Diego to live in the legacy that he created in the UFC and be able to appreciate the fact that he's in the Hall of Fame and like his the legend that he created years and years ago is going to live on. And please don't further take away. It's already been diminished to some degree, but I think, you know, with time you can kind of forget the mess that was the end and just appreciate all of the amazing work that Diego had and everything he did for the company. So personally, but at the end of the day, I also want him to, of course, like be able to afford things and support himself. So it's
Right.
not up to me. I just mean that in terms of like, I don't want to see him take any more punishment, and I don't want to see this like slow burn to the end of his career,
Yeah.
you know?
You know, I think sometimes if you're listening to the Diego kind of talk and the narrative that he does talk a lot about narratives, but they're spinning their own narrative too. So
Yeah.
if you really pay attention though to like the matchmaking that was going on in the UFC, and this is what I mean by Diego was safest in the UFC, which
Mm-hmm.
to some people and maybe some of the listeners and people watching right now, they might think I'm crazy, but if he goes to bare knuckle, they're going to put him in there with some young crazy killer that they need to build up because
I
they
don't
know
want
Diego
that.
doesn't have much time left. We don't want that.
Yeah.
There's no easy fights in Bellator. He's gonna be used to build names, and that's how the business works, and we all know it. In the UFC, though, they can control his matchups. And if like Mickey Gall, by love the kid,
Yeah.
by no means a killer, not some
No.
crazy striking genius. That's not an accident. Super tough kid, but it's not an accident. Even Michelle Pahea,
Uh-huh.
on the outside, he looks like a monster if you look what he does. But like outside of like the flashy crazy stuff that every once in a while lands, he's not super dangerous. Like
Yeah, he's got a lot of holes that Diego could
yeah,
have taken
right. He's
advantage
not a
of.
fantastic wrestler. He's not a fantastic grappler. He's not a very technical striker. So if you get on the inside and get close to him, you can smother him a little bit. Obviously it didn't go well, but like to the matchmaker's credit, he didn't take that
Mm-hmm.
much damage in that fight. And then you look at Kiesa, absolute savage. But he's not some striking wizard.
Yeah, he's a grappler.
He's not a huge ground and pound guy. He's a jujitsu guy. He's
Mm-hmm.
going to take you down. He's going to control you. He's going to choke the shit out of you. Those are all very, very, very safe matchups for Diego. And I don't think that's an accident. I think that they know where he was at. I think that they love the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And they want great Diego Sanchez fights that keep him safe. Whether he wins them or loses them, I don't think they care. They want him safe.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's not going to happen outside of the UFC because no one else outside the UFC cares about Diego.
And I honestly think that even though Cowboy, obviously a little bit more of a threat on the feet, a lot more of a threat on the feet, what more of a perfect potential retirement fight if that was a conversation that he was having with them? I mean, to have those two legends, you know, go toe to
And
toe.
especially if it was the last one.
Exactly. Like I that felt to me like the UFC saying like, you guys, you know, we love everything that you have done throughout your careers. And yeah, you haven't had like the greatest run, both of you, but let's put you together and like, let's kind of have this like old school appreciation. Hell yeah, Cowboy, hell yeah, Diego fight. And it felt so perfect. And again, I just go back to like, I wanted him to have those moments, whether literal or figurative, where people were chanting his name. You know, he talked about that in the interview, and that was another thing that stuck to me, like that drug of having a crowd of people chant your name. You know, I don't know what that's like, but I know you do. And just the drug of fighting in general, I certainly understand. It's such a a hard addiction to give up. And it's why people don't always think about life after the drug is gone.
Yeah, he was totally right. Like a lot of the stuff he said, like you said at the beginning of this, that was valid. The drug, the chase, the title being dangled in front of your face, that's all true. It's and I don't think
But it's
saying
not
that
a
stuff is true.
conspiracy.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
that's the exact, like, that is true, but no one's hiding that.
Yeah.
Like that's not really a knock on the UFC. They're dangling a belt in
No.
front of you. Of course they are.
Well, yeah,
That's the
we're
idea.
here for that.
That's
Yeah.
why I came here, you know? Like, it's like going to a fast food place and like they've been dangling cheeseburgers in front of my face the whole
Yeah.
like, that's why I came. That's what I came here for. And so that was, you know, like I think those are a few of the things that stuck out. Like, yeah, man, that's what we came here for. Like, you signed up for this. I understand it sucks. You got a lot of damage. You've taken a lot of crazy shots. You've been in a lot of wars, but like that was voluntary. As many wars as I've been in, as crazy the fights as I've been in, I signed up for that, and it was voluntary. And I don't blame anybody but myself for whatever you know, repercussions I'm going to have later on in life. And you know, the money thing, like, everybody wants more money. You know,
Sure.
I suspect that Diego's been paid very well, I would imagine. You know, there was a story we lost like millions of dollars, you know, some years ago to some investor. So like, if he had millions of dollars to lose, I think he's probably doing okay, especially as a guy who's never won a title. So I just, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve that. You know, he absolutely deserves as much money as he can get. But I mean, at some point, you know, like, you got to at least sit back and realize, like, you've lived a pretty good life. Like,
Yeah.
imagine Diego isn't hurting to have his bills paid. You know what I mean? But again, that's something that's none of my business. So I didn't dig in on any of that stuff. I was just really sad.
Did
like the shocking stuff. Like,
yeah.
I guess we can't not talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I can't believe I went back and watched just that part. I couldn't believe that I was able to keep a straight face, because inside my
About
fucking
Instagram,
head was
you mean?
exploding. No, when he said he was
About the
fearing for his
UFC?
life,
Yeah.
you know, like my head was exploding, and it was shock and sadness.
Yeah.
Like, one, that is the goddamn craziest thing I've ever heard, and two, that is so sad that like you really believe that.
Yes. And how
Like,
terrifying to
terrifying.
live in that mind.
Yeah, the paranoia is real, you know. I read something today, and they absolutely believe that Diego's he's speaking his truth. And Joshua Fabia is speaking his truth. They're just not speaking the truth.
Yeah.
Like, I believe that they believe it. I believe that everything they say, well, at least Diego, I think everything he's saying, he believes it. Joshua Fabia, not so much. I mean, just to be candid, I think he's a con artist. But
Yeah.
That's the scary part for me, and the really sad part is he's in a terrible place. He's paranoid. He's terrified. He's scared. And it's real, and that's sad, because it's every normal person listened to that and thought, no way, like, you're crazy. Like, that's crazy.
Diego's always been like a little kooky, I guess would be kind of a cuter word to use, right? Like, even from day one, he was always he was using different training techniques than the old school guys were. And, you know, he was always super he would go through phases where he was like super into religion, and that was all he wanted to talk about. Like, he's he gets very attached to ideas, especially if they surround like spirituality is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And any form of it. And I feel like that constantly searching for something to fulfill and move your spiritual nature just was the perfect opportunity for someone who, I guess, I don't find him charismatic. But, you know, Diego's not the only one. That's the other thing that like blew my mind. I was like, Stephan Bonnar was filming
this? Yeah.
What?
I was like, he got Stephan Bonnar too?
Yes. I know. So that's the other thing we have to like think about. Diego's not the only, I don't know what word I want to use here. Not the only person who is falling for this. And
He's not the only
so,
crazy one. You're gonna say
yeah,
it. I'll say it.
he's
He's
not the
not the
only
only
crazy
crazy
one.
one.
So I don't know, like this guy clearly has something going on, whether it's an ability to manipulate or convince or persuade or all of the above. But man, it's Diego's such a passionate guy that like he's the perfect person to have behind you because he's going to be vocal about it. He wants to tell everyone. When he's excited about God, he's going to tell everybody about God.
Right.
And now that he's excited about the school of self-awareness, that's all he wants to talk about. And you cannot tell him otherwise. And until I don't know what the end turning point change, reflecting back, going, oh man, maybe that wasn't a good idea. I don't know when or how that happens. And that is what kind of what you said before. That's what is concerning to me.
Yeah. Did you notice that their speech patterns, like Diego's
Are the
speech patterns, are
same
changing?
now.
Yeah, like Diego's
Yes.
way of speaking is starting to sound just like Joshua's.
The
And then today,
verbiage too.
yeah, today he posted this video of this guy essentially defending Joshua Fabia and Diego and kind of what's happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sent it to me privately in a DM. So I watched it. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
If he took the time to send it, I'll take the time to
Yeah,
watch it.
sure.
So I watched it. And again, it was another one of those shocking moments. If you turn the volume off, it sounds exactly, or you turn if you don't look at it and you just
Yeah.
listen to the
You
volume,
think Josh is talking.
it sounds exactly like in the speech patterns, the verbiage,
Yeah.
the pauses, the like the way that they end sentences, like right. Like I hate when people say it. I don't know why, because I say it too. It bothers me.
Right.
Someone
Because
tells you
they're
do
forcing
something,
you to agree with them.
right? Like what I just did it. See, I do it all the time, but it's
no, you were agreeing with me.
it's the way that he says it. Like he'll say something
Yeah.
and like he said he speaks very slow and like this
Dramatically.
this real dramatic slow speech, and
Yeah.
then like squints his eyes and says, right? Like
Right.
you're like, no, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But if you're not like a self thinker, like
Yeah.
maybe you start to like, oh, maybe I'm stupid if I don't agree with that because he's
Yeah.
looking at me as if I should know that already. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, if you get a chance, go look at Diego's Instagram and just it's like a 7-minute video. Like in a month, they're all three gonna sound exactly like the same person. It's the craziest thing in the world.
Did he react to you posting the video? Was he like, thanks? Was he like, oh man? Or did he say anything to you at all?
He was pumped. And then he reposted it. Like excuse me, that's another weird thing to me. Like they posted the video of the fighter meeting.
Yeah.
Thinking
where they don't look good.
This makes
Josh doesn't look good.
Yeah, this is great. Like we got him.
Yeah.
And then they released
the Hunter call.
The Hunter call.
Hunter was like perfectly
like
reasonable.
Sound like the most
professional,
reasonable person.
Yeah.
In the world, and he is. I know Hunter very well. So
yeah, so do I.
That's exactly how he is. Like he's great. Yeah. So, and then but released it and was like, yeah, we got him again. And then again, I reached out to Diego for this interview just one last time. That's not how it was supposed to go. That wasn't the plan. And I made a promise to him. If I put, if this goes out again, we're not going to clip it. We won't edit it. Cause sometimes like we use Twitter clips to promote the show. You can only do like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So I would have taken, one of the main points or one of the most shocking things or whatever of that interview, cut it to a 2 minute and 20 second clip. And then we would have posted that on Twitter to promote the show. I promised him I wouldn't do that. So then we get done with it. And I'm telling my producers and stuff like, no way. Like we can't clip this at all. But like, I don't know if we want to do this. Like, just, do we want this rehashed again? So people keep replaying it over and over and over on YouTube. And then Diego was immediately in my DMs. When's it going to be out? When are you going to put it out? I need a link. When are you going to put it out? I was like, all right. Like, all right. Like, I love you to death, but if this is what you want, all right. So I put it out on YouTube. Like where else it would have never been on YouTube.
Well, and then it becomes other people's to clip and write articles about, and
that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Well, man, I don't even know I don't even know quite how to wrap this up, because the thing we keep going back to is there is no ending yet. But I appreciated you doing that. And I think Diego appreciated you doing that as well, even though it ended up being something totally different than you wanted it to be. And my hope, I guess, is that whether it's in a couple months or maybe even a year, maybe you and I together, or you were alone, or you on Sirius or whatever, can try to have the interview that you wanted to have in the first place, where we can celebrate Diego and talk about all his favorite memories and biggest moments, and, you know, what he misses about being in the UFC, and how life is. And hopefully it's all good stuff and life is great. But yeah, for now, I appreciate you allowing him to say his piece. Someone needed to.
Yeah, I think someone did, and although that wasn't the plan initially, I'm glad that it was me.
Mm.
I'm not sure that many other people would have let him just go on like that, but I think he deserved it. I think RJ began to say, able to get the whole thought out at the end of it, but I guess we got all the time in the world now. I think I speak to the entire MMA community, the every staff member I know in the UFC, or every broadcaster, and every fighter that I know. Like, we genuinely want what's good for Diego Sanchez. And I think that's where it's coming from. I think he takes it as hate and people are attacking him, but it's not. It's concern. It's concern and love. And um, Joshua was absolutely being attacked, and I think that almost every reason he is being attacked is valid. And I just don't think Diego, excuse me, I don't think Diego can see those two things separately. And if he doesn't take it, if he watches this, as I'm sure he will, if he doesn't take anything away from this entire conversation we had, or anything else that's going on right now, I just want Diego to know that it's completely from a place of care, and admiration for him, his career, and the life that he's lived, at least in front of us, for the last 17 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. Every interaction I've ever had with him has been so awesome and pleasant. He's always so positive and loving. And, you know, he and I connected on the Christianity stuff because that's how I grew up. So I've always really liked that about him. So I feel like I understand him in some ways in those corners of his mind, I guess. But yeah, I agree. We love you. So, Anthony, thank you for your time, and hopefully you and I can do some more of these, some more fight breakdowns. I know we do, but this one I looked.
We'll do better.
We'll do better. We will do better. Our last video was only 3 months ago, so like we went from, I think, 6 months to 3 months. I mean, a few weeks.
We'll get it down to once a week here pretty soon.
Get it clicking. All right, man. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
All right.